Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm really glad that you've taken the time to return. I'm hoping that chapter one was enlightening to you. That you had some questions that you're writing down for us when we all get together. I'm super excited about this adventure, Ron. I can't even begin to tell you. Your being in this class means that you're looking for your church to become healthy so that it can be missional and it can focus on doing stuff for the kingdom, right? And that just excites me. I can't begin to tell you on how happy I am. My name is Don Zlatty. I'm an elder in full connection here at Connorsville First, and I thought, well, let's just jump right into it. Let's look at the big elephant in the room. This is a chapter about pastors, right? And I think it's important for us to understand that a pastor can only lead as well as the church laity are willing to be healthy, right? No amount of great ideas or good intentions can help a clergy person whose laity are completely unwilling or uncooperative or worse, apathetic and unmotivated. And these issues can be resolved, but it can't be resolved by the pastor alone. It has to be resolved through teamwork with the lay leadership. We need to understand that culture in the church, the health level of your church within the church, is representative of how well you're going to serve outside of the church. And so let's just go ahead and kind of jump right in. Some of the things that I think about, and I think most pastors do, we all want to be liked, right? But more importantly, I think pastors are asking, we're going to be able to be served? Will they allow themselves to be served by me? Will I be effective? And all these are good questions, and I think they only represent a small fraction of the questions that we ask ourselves as pastors every day. When a pastor is passive, congregations seem to love them, right? But the congregation ends up being unhealthy because nobody is there to lead. When a pastor steps up to lead, congregations often feel some tension, and then they ask for that pastor to be removed. So I'm going to break something down to you. Churches that are growing today are doing so because they're led well. I'm just going to put it out there. There's a plan in place. There's guidelines that are created and to hold people accountable. The pastor leads alongside of the church council or the leadership council with one voice, right? One voice, one thing. Healthy churches, they're not afraid to look at the ugly things that are kind of happening in their congregations. And more importantly, they're not afraid to address these ugly things, right, in order to fill the Great Commission. I think it's kind of important for us to kind of know these things because, look, itineracy is very interesting, right? You have a congregation, you guys have been around maybe 100 years, maybe 150 years, maybe even more than that. And so what we talked about last week, these groups form, right? How things are always done. This forms and becomes pretty solid. And here comes a new whippersnapper pastor, and he or she's got new ideas, and they want to lead well. And I've heard this numerous times. Well, we can just outweight this one. We outweighted all the other ones. Well, I want you to consider this. Just consider this. If the choices you made to not follow a pastor in the past, right, or the choices you have made to stay exactly where you are have worked, then you should be able to say that your church is healthy and growing. If not, then I'm just saying, maybe it's time to consider that we get kind of inside the pastor's head a little bit so that we can learn how to work together. Because I think deep down inside, every Christian wants to have a healthy church. We want to serve God. We want to give glory to God. Can't do that, however, if we're kind of stuck like a broken record, right? The music just never goes on. All right, so here's some things I think you should know. I know this is hard to believe, but that sermon that you hear on Sunday is only a small part of the studying that went into it, right? Many pastors study 12, 15 hours a week to give you that 20 to 30 minute sermon. The call to preach is a call to that we want to get right. God's word is by far too important for us to wing it every week. And the gospel message is the sole reason why most of us have been called to proclaim. I know that we think, oh, well, it's to hold our hands and it's everything else like that. But most pastors will say that they were called to proclaim the good news. right? And help lead the flock. And churches that want to be healthy want to be led into their relationship with Christ. And that means leading means having the willingness to be led and understanding that everybody can learn something, including pastors. We learn every day. So taking in consideration on Sunday morning how much work goes into that sermon that you like or dislike, or I've had people that say, "Well, Pastor, you just keep working." Right, and in a roundabout sort of way, they're saying, "Well, I didn't really like it this week," right? But it doesn't matter. I mean, I've still poured into my sermon regardless, and I've still asked God to speak through me, and so it puts pastors at a very vulnerable place on Sunday. If you have something you want to beat up on your pastor about, don't do it on Sunday. I mean, seriously, pastors are super vulnerable. We're trying to get in tune with the Holy Spirit so that we can deliver the message that God wants us to deliver. And so we're a little raw. So be kind to your pastor. Okay. Here are some things that I think goes through pastors' head. I wish I had more time for sermon planning and leadership development, and I wish I had more time to do ministry design and community service and pastoral visits and counseling and continuing education and family and personal time, and oh my goodness, the list goes on and on of all the things that go through our heads, on things that we wish we could accomplish. But I got to be honest with you. Pastoring is a 24/7 job, but if we don't put boundaries on ourselves, we literally will go 24/7. And a lot of times, at least for me, I get stressed out when I don't feel like I'm doing enough, right? And yet, more often than not, I'm doing more than at least that's what my SPRC tells me, that I need to be kind to myself, right, and not do that. But I think, if you understand that your pastor is a human being that is being called by God, that just wants to do the best that they possibly can to serve the church that they've been appointed to, then you're already starting to think of them as human beings, and also thinking of them, why were they sent here? Why would God send this person here? What can I learn from this person? And likewise, as if you're a pastor watching this, it's, why has God sent me here? What can I learn from my peeps, right? What can I learn from the folks here? What do they have to teach me about my call and about what God wants to do? I mean, Connorsville did this amazing thing. I came to Connorsville, and the word that God placed in my heart was wait. I am not good at waiting. And yet it was so loud and so clear, waiting is what I did. And God has blessed that obedience. We've doubled our attendance on Sunday, right? We have new families coming in. What I'm saying to you is that if you know your pastor and know that their heart really is just wanting to do the right thing by their people, you, and by God, right? Love God, love others. Small church pastors have a lot of pressure placed on them, and I'm not saying that big church pastors don't, but I want you to think about this. The level of personal engagement for a small church pastor is huge. In many cases, we're leading, and in all of this, it's a challenge. There's a tension that is already placed there because here's the new guy or the new gal coming in, and they better not change anything, and they better not take this out or move this, or that's our sacred cow, or or the idol that we worship to this time, and they better not think that they can come in here. It's a lot of pressure, and if you're a pastor moving into a new environment, we're concerned about are they going to treat my kids well? Are they going to treat my wife well? Or do I have to worry about who's going to meet me at the train station and be the person that oh, Pastor, we're so glad to have you, but they're the ones that you have to watch out for, right? And so there's a lot of things back and forth. That being a small membership pastor is all kind of relational. It's called a porch swing pastor because everything that we do is through interaction with the people in our congregation. So, a pastor that has 20, 25 people, 30 people in their congregation pretty much has to really work hard to get personal relationships built. And that only happens if the people let him in or let her in. right? I can't begin to tell you how many times we've Jackie, my wife, and I have gone places, and the door just kind of goes, well, we don't want to get to know you. You just stay over there. We don't want to see you till Sunday or until we need you, which is something else. And so there's a lot of pressure on porch swing pastors, these pastors of small churches, to get it right, to get the relationship right. And small churches usually have at least one person who is officially or unofficially the person that rules the roost, right? And these individuals are looked upon as the identity keepers of the church. Nothing gets done if it's not blessed by this person. And so small churches tend to be single generational churches, right? They're all the same age. All the kids are gone. And this leads to a church that is homogeneous in the way they think, what they value, and their traditions. So I will say that leading a church like this involves a lot, and I mean a lot, of hand-holding and engagement outside of the committee circles, right? Pastors looking to help a small church become healthy must absolutely know the hearts and minds of the people they lead. Relationship is the number one way to lead well in a small membership church. But they have to be given that opportunity, right? You can't expect a pastor to come in and build relationships with folks that don't want to build relationships with. And also, you have to, as leadership of a small church, you kind of have to think about this. There are a lot of pitfalls and a lot of things, a lot of landmines that your pastor can accidentally step on with no intention of doing damage if everybody blows out of perspective, right? And so, as leaders of the church, I mean, wouldn't it be great if you kind of came around your pastor and said, well, first off, don't blow it out of, married, stop taking this out of proportion. Nothing was, he didn't mean to move, the quilt that you put over here, he moved it, to the other side of the room. I'm sure he didn't, or she didn't mean anything harm by that. I know it's always been there for the last, 75 years, but just relax a little bit. And come around your pastor and give a warning, hey, Mary's really kind of touchy about this quilt. We're just not ready to deal with that at that moment. Can we help you with anything? And so I think understanding the matriarch, patriarch, and the way things kind of go is what the pastor has to do coming in. But the leadership has to understand that this is a tough task. These relationships in the church have been formed over decades and decades, right? Whole family generational patterns have been formed by this. And as a pastor coming in, we're new. We're automatically the outsider. And a lot of times churches don't like outsiders. And that's what makes them unhealthy to begin with. So I will say that, small churches are great because they make you feel like family, right? Everyone knows everyone. Everyone takes care of everyone as long as it's in the church. And this is one of those things we've got to move past the warm and fuzzy. So Jesus didn't tell us to get comfortable, be comfortable. Small church familiarity and all the warm and fuzzy that comes with it often leads to a church that is unhealthy and closed-minded. All right, and that takes them away from being vibrant to internalized, which leads them to hospice, which then also leads into ministry death. I'll give you an example. If you're from the South and I say, give me an iced tea, that iced tea is going to come so sweet that your teeth are going to sing. If you go down south and you say, well, I'd really like an unsweet tea, people kind of look at you kind of funny. They automatically know that you're an outsider. And for some reason or other, it's like one of those strange little things. They're wary of you, right? They're wary of you. The same thing happens in our small churches. I mean, I think we all have a heart that we want to love folks, but let's face it, if somebody comes in that's the complete opposite of your demographic of your church, whether you're on the outside, you're trying your best to do it. On the inside, you're sitting there going like, am I safe? Is this person safe? Is this, what does this person want? What if they, what if they want to do something? Oh, look, they're sitting in my seat. That's the seat where I sat in all my, time here. My grandma sat in that same seat. How dare they park their butt and their family park their butts in the row that my family sits in every Sunday? And so all these things kind of go on, and they interfere with the health of the church because you're so tied up with that. that you forget about the blessing that just happened. A new person just walked in the door, and you have an opportunity to love them like Jesus. Who knows what could happen, right? Who knows what God has sent to you? So, small churches have like deep traditions, right? And these traditions often attach themselves to the individual personalities that started them and pushed for them year to year. We've always done it this way. These are the worst words ever spoken. The book talks about a pumpkin patch ministry that had been held every year. And as long as people could remember, this always happened. When it started, it was well attended. And there were lots of people willing to do work as the event volunteers. We've seen that. Well, I hate to tell you, times changed. We don't talk on the same telephones anymore. We don't drive the same type of cars. Less people were interested in coming in, and even less folks were interested in volunteering. But they kept going, right? They just kept going. And they kept going until adaptive leadership happened. So Todd Bolsinger is the author of this book called Canoeing the Mountains. And it's an excellent book to read as a leadership team, and I encourage you to do that. One of the things that Todd talks about is what got us here will not get us to where we need to go. We have to adapt the ways we do things, or we will die on the wrong side of the mountain. Right? That pumpkin patch was a great idea, but, people were so focused on the tradition of the pumpkin patch, they forgot to think about the reason why they started the ministry in the first place. Right? We've always had it. We've always done it. The pumpkin patch was a ministry for them to get connected with their neighborhood. By the way, this is a big one. It's called vision. Right? This was their vision. And it was a vision for a very, very long time. Now, just because people like the way things were done 20 years or more ago doesn't mean that ministry is kingdom focused today. All right, and I'm just going to stop here and I'm going to say this. I have been in churches that have once a month they have breakfasts, right? And it's because they've always done it. Now, if you ask them, well, what do you do at these breakfasts? Oh, well, every breakfast we serve a free breakfast to the community. Oh, great. How's that working for you as far as building relationships, developing community and teaching people about Jesus Christ? Oh, we don't do any of that stuff. We stay in the kitchen, they serve, and they eat out in the banquet hall, and that's it. All right, or the flip side. Twice a year we have an event where people come in, they pay $10 at the door, and they get a ham and turkey or whatever it is, and yeah, we're doing this as a community service. No, you're not. That's called being a restaurant, a temporary restaurant. There's no Jesus in that. And I'm saying that because times changed. Who's out there talking to the people? Who's praying over them? Where is the connection happening? How are you taking names? How are you using that as a vehicle to bring people into the concept that you are a church that is alive and you are there for the community? All it is just things that we've always done. Now, I will say that back in the day, those ideas were sufficient because people would normally come to church. But that's no longer the case. And so, just because you do something, just because you like something, doesn't mean that it's healthy for your church. I mean, just because we've always done it, we can't possibly change it. I'm telling you, there's a lot of ministry happening out there that people don't know the why. Well, why are we still doing this ministry? Well, we couldn't possibly. Martha would be very upset if we stop this. Well, you know what? It's killing your church. Your volunteers are tired. Your generations are dying off, and there's no young people coming in to fill it because the young folks, that's just not their thing. And so, but it makes us feel like we're serving God. No, you're serving yourself, because serving God would be serving the community, right? Figuring out what the community needs, and then going. So every ministry needs to be pruned and repotted from time to time. You could still do a breakfast, but maybe it has to be different. Maybe it needs to have some different components in it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the relationship building component is more important than the, getting volunteers to work the kitchen. Maybe the going out there and seeing what people are really thinking and how, hearing their struggles, being empathetic. We do sometimes ministry with a very apathetic sort of mentality, right? We're in it, we're doing it, it's good. Like, hey, who's got the eggs? We got everything good. All right, serve it. That's okay. We got good, and we clean it up. And we never once consider that maybe somebody out there needed to hear their gospel message. Maybe somebody out there needed to be prayed for. Maybe there was a connection to be made. Maybe God sent somebody there that particular time. Again, back in the day, that was an assumption. People came to church. They knew where to go. Nowadays, we have to guide. And so, yes, we have to prune and repot from time to time. Which I will tell you, as a clergy person, mentioning this, and maybe some of you have gotten really uncomfortable in this portion of the talk. But I'm saying that you can't put lipstick on a pig and expect to be pretty, right? Sometimes you just got to let things go, or you have to reimagine them. And so, as a church grows to an active membership of 50 or more, which is kind of where I'm at Connorsville, the style of pastoring has to change as well, including the lay leadership, right? So you can't have single people that are, pushing agendas and everything else like that. That matriarch, patriarch role, that gets moved on to groups of people that hold on reins of leadership for a long time. And so let me ask you this. How many people know somebody that has been on trustees or leadership or SPRC for longer than 3 years? And my guess is that if you're living and breathing in the United Methodist Church, you know people that have been on these committees since Jesus walked the earth, right? And we say, oh, well, it's because we can't find anybody. Well, there is some truth to that, but I'm going to tell you that a board and a church that is ran by the same voice and same group of individuals functions in much the same way as a switchboard. Back in the day when Maybell was, you'd call into the switchboard and then that person would be, plugging you in, but staying on the line to catch all the nitty gritty dirt. And I know if you've been around for a time, party lines and all that, you know exactly where I'm coming from. And pastors have to learn to operate kind of like these operators. We got to keep our head to the board, connecting people to the groups that they're looking for. But people aren't going to connect if they know that there's just no way they're not going to have a voice, right? And accountability comes in place where, well, we can't find people to step into leadership. It is, if they are a member of the United Methodist Church, they've already said that they believe in the mission of the church, and they want to step forward. Now, if somebody doesn't want to do that anymore, then maybe we need to consider what our membership means, because it's not a country club, right? When you're asked to, would you step up? We could really use your talent, and you keep telling people, no, I couldn't possibly. What you're really saying is, I'm just a consumer. I'm just a consumer, and I'm perfectly okay to watch everyone work as long as it's not me. And I got to be honest with you, that's unhealthy. That is unhealthy. Okay, let's keep moving. The pastor's always the fall guy. Anything that goes wrong, pastor's fault. Pastor's doing change. The pastor is telling us that we need to be accountable. Okay, I'm going to tell you that this is a must. Lady leadership, I want you to hear what I'm saying. The pastor and leadership team have to work hard together to move from a porch swing mentality up into this switchboard mentality, right? And the accountability model has to move as well. And so if you want to be healthy, it's going to take a lot of work. Many people are afraid that of the church's growth in this stage of the game, because they're afraid that if the church grows, then it'll be less inclined to work to the goals that they set out a long time ago. I'm telling you, The pastor cannot change the culture of your church on their own. You have to be the cheerleaders beside your pastor. You have to tell everybody it's going to be okay, because everything that we're doing, we're still going to honor, Mary's quilt. We're just going to move it over here and maybe put it in a shadow box and modern it up, because, young people, they don't understand that. They want to see something else. And so we're trying to now work together. And, here's what we're going to do with the monthly meals and everything else. Well, I know there's some changes, but we're working together. We want to honor some of the traditions we had, but we need to work together. Oh, well, that pastor is just changing everything. No, this is a leadership decision. The pastor is just walking us through it. See how that's different? Right? When we stand up and say, no, the pastor's not trying to change us, we recognize as a leadership team that change has got to happen. And so this is what we're doing. And to honor our church and to love you as we say we do, we need to head it into a different direction. That changes the whole discussion, right? That prevents those parking lot discussions where that's a pastor, we got to get rid of this person, right? He's just trouble or she's just trouble. Okay, it takes laity and leadership. It takes laity, leadership, and the pastor to sustain a healthy church environment, with both sides working in tandem towards similar goals. A big little church can empower, equip, and encourage membership to think missionally, but you got to do it together. You can't wing it. The pastor can't do it themselves. Laity can't do it themselves. It's got to be in tandem, because you're going to get some resistance, right? But together you're much, much stronger in loving people through that resistance. And so, all right, so what happens if your pastor's part-time? Okay, and the sad reality is that many churches are in decline. And this decline means the ability to support full-time clergy has been diminished. So I want to go off topic just a little bit so that you kind of understand where my heart is on this. My personal story involves me coming up through lay leadership in my church in Eden United Methodist Church. I followed God's call to become leadership there, and then to become a local pastor. And I was appointed at one time to a single church, and then 2, and then 3 over my tenure as a local pastor. This is before I decided to go to seminary. I'm going to tell you that as a part-time local pastor, there was no such thing as part-time hours. Okay? Most part-time clergy folks are working way more hours than they're appointed to work, because I know I did. And on the other side of the coin, part-time clergy struggle with answering their call with the limited amount of time that they have, right? I mean, especially if you're called to more than one congregation. I mean, can you imagine that? This is why it's essential, and I mean essential, that churches that have part-time pastors, that the laity teams learn how to lead and to lead well. Okay? The laity team with a part-time pastor is essential for a healthy church. I still believe that bivocational churches are going to be the thing here, because as the cost of living goes up and as our churches decline, until we start reaching that point where we start getting healthy and people start wanting to come, that's the reality, right? On the flip side, the laity of the church can be missionally focused and walk with the pastor. You guys, we could never miss a step. It could be wonderful and beautiful, and that's all possible. So kind of going on, with limited time, the pastor cannot be expected to cover everything that a full-time pastor can be. And okay, as a full-time pastor, I'm going to say sometimes, even as a full-time pastor, I can put 80 hours in a week, and I still can't cover all the expectations that everyone has for their pastor. Okay, so part-time pastors, many of our part-time pastors have day jobs, right? Because that's how they have to pay their way. That means that the congregation, especially the lay leader teams, must define the job functions that only the pastor can do, and then give those other functions that everyone can do to others. You need to learn how to delegate. So here are some behind-the-scene things that I think it's my gift to part-time clergy folks that I'm not sure that we're really aware of. So meetings. Now think about that. Every meeting has a pastor present, right? And think about that when you consider that the time allotment pastors are giving. So you have, let's say, all right, you have 20 hours a week. In that time, and we'll talk about some of the other things that are expected, you have a meeting, trustee meeting, an SPRT meeting, you have a missional meeting, you have a meeting with the UMW, sometimes we have to go to, you have admin council. So let's say in any given month you've got 5 additional meetings that are going to eat up into the time that we have. So if you're a half-time pastor, you got 20 hours to give, right? And so you're eating up into that time. You've got to prepare for the meeting, especially like admin council. You've got reports to fill out. You got to turn in. Here's what I'm doing. That's not to mention the fact that you've got other things that you're worried about too, right? Part-time pastors have more administrative responsibilities, right? So, some churches, they don't have an admin assist. They don't have a church secretary. So guess who's doing the bulletins? That would be your pastor. Guess who's answering all the emails and the phone calls getting? That's your pastor. And that all is, that's a lot. I'm just going to say that's a lot. And, so how many times have you heard someone come up, oh, there was a spelling mistake or a date wrong, to your pastor who's, basically kind of a one-person show, right? And so we also take care of the majority of the sanctuary stuff, unless you have a sanctuary steward. And we got to fill out, part-time pastors, you're the guy or the gal that's doing your conference reports and your district reports and your year-end reports, and the list goes on and on and on. This is all you are expected to do that on half-time. Well, I'll tell you, as a full-time pastor, it's a bear. Every pastor in the United Methodist Church is expected to do continuing ed. So if you're a part-time pastor, you have a full-time job doing part-time pastor appointments, you're still expected to do continuing ed through the conference. And that, there's course of study, there's district events that you're expected to go to. This all takes up time. We don't think about that. We mentioned earlier sermon prep. Good sermons take time to develop. So here's the kind of the rule: for every 1 minute of spoken sermon, there's an hour of time that goes into it. Now, I will say that most of us cut that down to about 45 minutes, but on any given Sunday, I'm putting in 12 to 15 or more hours, depending on how, if it's a series, not to mention planning, having to take time off to do planning. That's every week to provide you the sermon that you come into. That's not including Bible studies that we do. How many pastors have to lead Sunday school because nobody will step up? Right? How many people have other ministries that they expect their pastors to be at? Well, pastor, you need to be at every funeral dinner. You need to be over here. You need to be over here. Those are all hours that are expected that come out of that 20 or 25 hours that your part-time pastor has. And I'll say, as a full-time pastor again, even as a full-time pastor, sometimes it's overwhelming. So expecting the pastor to do all these ministry things is just not practical, and to be honest with you, it's not very loving, right? We are the church. We are the church, not the pastor. We as a group. And so as laity leadership, you got to ask yourself, what are the things that only the pastor can do? And what are the things that we can delegate? I'll give you some prime examples. I do visitations as much as I can, but I also have folks that do visitations. Now, I know people go, well, that's just the pastor's job. No, really, visitations is all our job, right? It shouldn't be relegated to just the pastor. I've got people that help me with doing the missional stuff that we do. They come to me when they need me. When I've got folks that are, help out in the sanctuary, so I don't have to worry about, filling candles and putting out bulletins. I have, and so we have developed a system where I've got people that can do the voluntary stuff that really kind of helps me, and I'm full time. So what can you do to relieve your pastor of some of the stress that they carry? It's just something for you to think about. Okay. Like the last video, there are questions and homework assignments for you to complete. And I'll put those in that posting down below. So leave your answers there to the corresponding questions in the post, right? Look, this class really won't help you if you're not engaged in it, right? It's not going to help you if you're not going to apply yourself. And so I'm really asking you guys to be vulnerable a little, right? To open yourself up, so we say, yes, Lord, thank you, God, for giving us an opportunity to make our churches healthy, right? This is why we're here. And I'm hoping that by giving you a glimpse inside of a pastor's head and heart, you kind of get an understanding of why things have got to change, right? And that the pastor that sits in front of you is not your enemy. They are a brother and sister in Christ that just want the best for the church that they're serving. So until next time, please take time to read chapter 3. And then and I'll have a video out for that here shortly. God bless, my friends, and I'll see you later.